Hello folks, and welcome to Telling Tinder Tales, the show where people get to tell their interesting dating stories with me, Chris O'Neill.
And me, Thomasin Lockwood. On today's episode, we have 3 guests calling in to tell us their tales, and we'll get to ask them some questions about it.
So Thomasin, who's calling in today?
Calling in today, we have Guy from London.
Hello. Hi.
Elle, also from London.
Hiya.
And Nico from Rome.
Yes, hi.
Let's jump into our tales. Let's start with Guy. Guy, can you give us your story, please? Thank you very much.
Yes, well, I was kind of set up with this lady from Paris. And two of my best friends were coming over to see 3 shows that I produced, actually. They said, we're bringing a friend. We think you'll like her. So she walked into my life, and I swear to God, I'd been in the presence of stunningly beautiful people before because I'd been in Hollywood and done all kinds of TV stuff. But then when Brigitte walked into my life, I literally could not speak. I had to wrap my tongue back up and stick it in my mouth. But we spent actually 2 days in each other's company. And on the second day, I actually made her laugh, and she sort of winked at me through the rearview mirror. I was driving her up to Stratford with my 2 friends to see this show that I was producing, and it was at the Swan Theatre, and it was absolutely packed, and she didn't quite know what I was in this production, and she said, "Are you producing this?" I said, "Yeah," and she looked around at the sort of 400 people in there and went, "Okay." And anyway, I drove back to London, and they all had to stay in my cottage. And it was an absolutely freezing night, and I didn't have a spare bedroom. I had a sort of a box room, and it was an old cottage, so it had a sloping floor, which was very convenient. And I said, "You have to sleep in this room. I'm so sorry. It hasn't got a heater or anything like that. So I'm going to pile you up with duvets, and you'll be fine. It'll be lovely and warm." And I slept on the couch in front of the roaring fire, and my 2 friends slept in my bed. Again, this is a 16th century cottage, so it's really, really old and no heating. And I cooked them a romantic puttanesca, and I cracked open a bottle of red wine. Brigitte took her shoes off, and she plonked her foot on my lap, which was basically begging for a foot massage. So I naturally took her foot in my hands, and I started rubbing, and I was conversing with my other 2 friends, and all I heard in my ear was this kind of, oh. And I sort of looked over and saw this look of ecstasy in her eyes, so I went for it harder. And
Oh my goodness.
And anyway, so a little later on, everybody had to go to bed, and I sort of I gave Brigitte a night shirt, and she climbed into this literally freezing room, and my 2 friends went up to my room, and I settled down just to watch the flames, and thinking how just a few feet above my head was this extraordinary woman that had made my tongue fall out of my face. And I thought, gosh, she's only actually 2 feet away from me at this point. There's a floor in between us, but she's only 2 feet away. Suddenly the door creaked open, and she was wearing this long white shirt, and I could just see the silhouette of her body underneath. And she looked at me and posed in the doorway with the flames licking nearby. And she went, "Would you keep me warm?"
Oh my goodness.
And I thought about it for about 3 milliseconds and said, "No, go home, go back." Actually, I didn't. I didn't say anything really. I just pulled back the covers, and she climbed in, and we didn't talk about it the next day. We just had this shit-eating grin on our faces, and my mother happened to get on the same train as me on a different stop completely. We were going into London, and she happened to get on the same train, and she said, Why are you smiling, you two? Why are you smiling? What's going on?" Anyway, she then went back to Paris, and my 2 friends were supposed to come and see me perform in Bath, and they decided not to come, but she decided to come anyway. So she jumped on a Eurostar from Paris and landed up in Bath. And I said, where are you staying? She said, well, I thought I would stay with you. And I said, okay, I'll have to ask my landlady. This was nearly 30 years ago. My God. And, so she said, yes, you can have this extraordinary looking woman stay with you. And she saw me perform, and she stayed the whole rest of the week with me in Bath, watching me perform every night. And then I got on the same train back to Paris with her. I had no idea what was going to happen in Paris. She had kept speaking about, if you want me, you must also love the other man in my life. And I thought, this is very, very cryptic. What's going on here? I don't know how I'm going to handle this. Has she got other lovers, whatever? And after the third day in Paris, I realized I was actually in love. And we didn't fall out of love. I asked her to marry me on New Year's Eve 1999 to the tune of Prince, who's her favorite musician. And she said yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we got married 3.5 months after we met, and here we are still, 2 children.
That's lovely. Wow.
Very nice.
Wow. Thank you. I mean, that'll do it, eh? I mean, what's that saying? When you know, you know? My goodness.
When you know, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, guys. So
Pleasure.
my first question, it's related to the 2 friends, because I have to say, you can tell that you're a creative because the descriptions you're using with the silhouette and the flames, it's all very romantic. However, I am picturing the 2 friends sat at the table. She's putting her foot in your lap and she's like, ooh, and they're like, does anyone want seconds of this romantic puttanesca? like were they really pleased with how well it was going? Were they a bit like shocked? How were they?
I think they knew that she was extraordinarily romantic, and I think they assumed that we were going to hit it off. My friend Tim from America said, "We think you'll like her," which was obviously an understatement. Apart from the fact that she was very beautiful, she was a model and a TV personality in Paris. I could not believe that she fancied me. I could not believe it. I was in total shock. And I was a little boy. I was literally a little boy every time I was in her presence.
So they did a good job then.
They did a rather good job.
Chris, any questions?
My question is, they set you up with her. Have you ever set anybody else up in the same way?
Well, not quite that successfully, no. But there again, I was extraordinarily lonely and horny at the time, so it kind of made it probably more applicable. But and I guess she was too. I think she was thinking that she was going to have just a normal lover from London, and I think that's what she was thinking. But it turned out to be more. No, I haven't set anybody up in that way, but I have tried to. I've got a very eligible bachelor friend. Who's very wealthy and unmarried, and
he's here tonight.
And here he is.
I should say, if you're female and you subscribe to the podcast, in 6 weeks' time, we will send you the details of this man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he's 62 and unmarried, but wealthy and happy.
It's an additional bonus.
Yeah.
Lovely. Elle, do you have any questions?
I do. I want to know who are the other men in her life that she wanted you to get in touch with. Like, what was going on there?
So one of the men that Brigitte kept talking with, that if you love me, you must also love the other men in my life, turned out to be her bloody dog.
I love it. Nico, any questions?
Yes. Well, were you more or less the same age, or was she younger or older than you?
I was 38. She was 34.
But all beautiful women make little boys of men.
Absolutely. I was a complete.
True.
I was just drooling. That's pathetic.
Enough. Guy, that's a brilliant story. Thank you very much. Make the rest of us jealous in many ways, I suppose. Yes, well done.
Yeah.
Elle, have you a story to tell us?
I do have a story. Mine is not as romantic. There was no foot massages, unfortunately, and no. So my story starts in the sort of middle of the pandemic. We were allowed to go
out, but we were not allowed to be out. So I decided to join a dating app because my friend said that's what we should be doing. So I did. And I matched with this man and I was like, oh, he's very handsome, very well traveled. I see all these pictures of him in different parts of the world. And I like that. I'm somebody who's also well traveled. So lots to talk about. He worked with children. I was like, this is great. This guy seems really lovely. We organized a date. It was in Hampstead Heath. So cue the date. And he said, well, just go for a walk along Hampstead Heath. It'll be really nice. I said, okay, great. I show up. He was late by about 20 minutes late. He did tell me he was going to be late. As I left the station, it is pouring down with rain. It's sort of, well, not quite pouring, but drizzly, very, very drizzly. And I am a woman of color who does not like to get her hair wet. So I was outside in the drizzle waiting for this man. Already a problem. And so I just waited for him. He showed up in tracksuit bottoms because, of course, we were going to a park. Yeah, it gets worse. I promise. We meet at West Hampstead. So we meet at West Hampstead to get to Hampstead Heath. Now, I don't know if any of you are from London. I know that guy you mentioned you are. So that's a very long walk. And I do not know the area very well. And apparently neither does this man. So as we're walking, we're going towards wherever we need to go. And he sort of goes, oh yeah, I know the way. Don't worry. And we're walking and we're walking and we're walking and we're walking and we're walking. And we do not stop walking. And he kind of looks at me and I said, do you know where you're going? He said, I do, but I need to pull out the maps. Not a problem. I cannot find my way out of a paper bag. Not a problem. We can find a map. And then he picks up his phone, kind of looks at me and goes, oh, could you pull up the map on your phone, please? I don't have credit.
Oh.
Now, yes, for those who don't know what credit is, it's when you top up your phone to put money on it so you can make a phone call. I'm not going to judge him, you know, we've all been there once upon a time, but I've literally never heard the word credit since 2008. So I was very much like, oh, this is a thing. I should have ran it down the other end of the hill, but, you know, we live and we learn. It's a pandemic. Everyone's lonely. So I pull up my phone. We get to the place that we needed to get to. Now, I now know what Hampstead Heath is supposed to look like and what the heath is supposed to be, because at the time, it really didn't look like that. I was like, we're in the middle of a forest. This doesn't feel correct. Where's the view? Am I going to get murdered? I'm not sure. Halfway through this journey, he decides to ask me if I would like a drink. I thought maybe a bottle of water or something or whatever. He pulls out a 2-litre Tesco's Finest bottle of gin. But wait, it gets worse. It does get worse. I'm still alive to tell the tale, so, you know, I'm not dead. This is great. We're doing a great job. So he pulls out this bottle of gin and this bottle of tonic. Now, I'm in the pissing rain. This man has just told me all this random stuff. He showed up in tracksuit bottoms and asked me if I've got money on my phone to make a map. I said, yeah, give me the drink. Give me the damn drink. At this point, I'm like, sure. So he takes out these plastic cups and we're walking along these very posh houses, drinking our gin and tonics from a cup. We get to where we need to go and it's wet. The floor is wet. Everywhere is wet. This man has no blanket, just a gin and tonics. That's it. That's all he brought. It is drizzly outside. So I managed to put my coat on the floor because I'm a trooper. So I sit down and we're sort of talking. And I said, oh, tell me about, you know, you've been to Thailand, you've been to East Asia, you've been to Malaysia, you've been to all these different places. This is amazing. Tell me a little bit about it. And he said, yeah, I have. I've experienced a lot of these things. It's been really, really nice. He couldn't give me one factoid, one piece of information about these places, apart from the women he slept with whilst he was there.
Christ.
He began to tell me he's been all over the world because of his job and he slept with the most beautiful women he could possibly imagine and how it's just amazing. He just loves exotic women. He was like, it's just so fantastic. I love going around there and meeting all these people, you know, and then proceeded to tell me that he was like, but you know, deadpan, completely serious, but you know, in Thailand, you have to be careful. I was like, what? Dare I ask what you mean by careful? And he was like, well, you know. And I went, oh, I don't want you to explain anymore. And he was like, I don't want you to explain anymore. And then he said, oh, I don't tend to use protection. What possessed this man to have this conversation with me? I do not know. I was like, I am not your therapist. I'm not even your friend at this point. He turned around and was like, oh yeah, I don't tend to use protection apart from when I'm in Africa, because you know, hey.
No,
And I went,
you didn't.
I was like, I need to leave immediately. I expeditiously need to get up and just go. And then proceeded to look me dead in the eye and go, are you African? I've never felt so, I didn't know what to do. At this point, I said, right, it's time for me to leave. And he's like, yeah, we should go. It's getting wet. You know, we're getting wet outside. We should leave. He's like, you can always come back to mine if you want. I said, I think not. I said, no, thank you. I think I'm going to just go. And then he said, okay, yeah. And to top off the date, he was like, I'm just going to go piss in this tree. Just give me a second. And I thought to myself, you know what? My bladder is about to burst. I'm going to go in that tree over there. And that was the highlight of my date, me peeing in a bush in the middle of Hampstead Heath, begging for anyone to just kidnap me. I wanted Bigfoot to come. I wanted anyone just come and save me at this point. We had to walk the same way home using my phone because he didn't have credit, remember? And he turned around and said to me, you can always come back to mine. This man tried his hardest. He's like, you can come back to mine. I could cook us a nice meal. We could stay at mine. I said, I'd rather not. I'd rather eat glass, but thank you. And good night. So yeah, that's my Tinder tale.
Thank you. And I'm sorry.
Okay, that is something else. Just wondering one thing. You know the way he had the gin and he had the tonic, right? Did he have lemon and ice?
No.
God.
Lemon and ice? This man didn't have a blanket for me to sit on.
This man didn't have a pot to piss in.
Quite literally, yes. I know. Thomasin, have you a question for this
shock.
woman?
Oh my gosh.
I am in shock.
I think Elle may have broken our record for the worst day ever. It just kept getting worse. I mean, I just want to know what's going through your mind. Like, you know, when you're walking down Hampstead Heath and he's got like the gin that he's necking, I'd be like, is he taking me to rob a house? Is that what we're doing? I want to know, like, at what point in the date were you like, oh, this is the worst? Like, when did you lose hope?
When did I lose hope? I mean, I wasn't very hopeful to begin with when he was 20 minutes late. That didn't help, but I thought, you know, power through. I'm not someone who tends to go on a lot of dates. So I was like, I will try and see. And he's well-traveled and works with kids. So that seems really normal and wholesome behavior. It was neither normal or wholesome.
I wonder, how were the conversation with him, the written conversations? You must have exchanged messages with him, like written messages before you met him, right? Because on the app, you know, it all starts off with, you know, you don't talk to people. So I'm wondering what made you like click to say like, hey, this guy's interesting. Well, I mean, was he very bright in the writing?
The written messages were super normal. He actually sent me voice notes and I was like, oh, he's got a nice voice. He seems like very thoughtful. So he worked with children with disabilities and was telling me a little bit about his day. And I was like, oh, that seems really nice. Super normal in the messages. Never once mentioned anything about Thailand or Africa. Never once. I thought, normal person.
So what took him abroad? Was it his job?
So before he worked with kids, I believe he worked with an airline. So with this airline, he was able to travel a little bit.
So you'd think he would have a little bit more sophistication.
You'd think so, but apparently not. He did tell me a little bit about his ex as well, who he's still very much in love with. So
Of course he did.
I mean, how many no-nos have you got to, you got to come to a date with? At least he brought the tonic.
At least he didn't murder me in the forest.
I know. At that point, honestly, the point you were like, that would be best.
The waters in hell.
Gosh.
There's something yin and yang about the two stories we've heard. One of them is so uplifting and optimistic, and the other one makes you just want to shoot all men.
Exactly. I'm looking at you going, my God, that man should have treated you with, gold gloved fingers. That sounds terrible.
It was a good first draft, guy.
Yeah, gold glove fingers, the way you don't leave fingerprints.
That's going to be that's the title of today's episode. Gold gloved fingers.
I'm kind of jealous because my story is nothing like else. Sorry.
Well, I have to say, thank you very much for sharing with us, Elle. I think that might bring us on to Nico then. Nico, would you like to tell us your Tinder tale whenever you're ready?
So my story, I was surfing in Tuscany. So I was walking towards the shore, and from far away, I see a boy like rambling in the white waters. And I go like, man, this guy's like, he's tough. And I got closer, and I thought, oh, but maybe it's not a boy, maybe it's a girl, because of the shape there. And then I get closer, and this person starts walking toward me, and yes, it's a girl, and she's standing, and she's walking towards me, and she's dragging her board, and then she comes to me, and she talks to me, and she's like, oh, don't get in here, because it's just like currents and stuff. And I go like, okay, thanks. And I was actually going somewhere else, because there were no waves there, and she was a beginner. Not that I'm any champion, but it just wasn't working there. And so that's it. So I go surfing and I do my stuff. And then like a couple of hours after, I'm walking back to the beach, and this girl is still there. And she's still in the water, and she's going out of the water as I'm walking by. And this time I start talking to her, and what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And it comes up that she's alone, and she comes from the other side of Italy. She's done like 3-4 hours by car on her own. And I go like, man, no, she's tough. She's on her own. And like, those are the ingredients that kind of click in my head. I had a girlfriend at the time, so I wasn't like throwing myself like I would, like an Italian would, as you guys know, the Italian are romantic. So basically, I invited for lunch with my friends because I was with some other people, and then she said yes, and then and we have lunch, and I look at her, and then I think like, oh my God, this girl is stunning. She's smiling, she's laughing, she's gorgeous. And then at the end of the lunch, she gives the number to one of the guys who was single. And she says to me, like, get my number from Alessandro, like we might meet, who knows. And then I go my way and she goes her way. During the next year or something, I'm traveling a lot. And I'm traveling with one of the friends she met. So we keep texting her, like, let's see what she's doing, the girl there, Chiara. And we send a text, we send her pictures, and she has a normal life, and we have a crazy life because we're just surfing around because I wasn't working much, and my friend doesn't work at all. He's just surfing, lucky guy. So we're quite spoiled, and she's not. She's working. She's probably thinking like, what the fuck, this guy's just sending me like the pictures of them around the world. After like 1 year, I split up with my girlfriend, and then I say like, let's see what Chiara's doing. And I read her text, and then the text becomes more text and more and more and more, and then eventually she goes like, I'm in Tuscany for this weekend. Why don't we just hook up? I'm sitting at the bar with some friends in Rome, and I go like, this girl is like, she's gorgeous, and I really am really like her. I don't know if she's into me. It's like, why would she be into me? And then and I go like, you know what? Like, I'll try and find a house where we can meet somewhere in Tuscany. So I book a place. I didn't know what she expected. So like, look, I can book this place. Worst case scenario, you put me on the sofa, like it's fine. She says, oh, it's amazing. Yeah. So I get it. I go all in. Then we meet. It's a kind of a blind date. We just met like one day, like almost a year before. And then we meet in this place in Tuscany. And she comes with the car. She stops and she looks at me and she literally jumps on me with her legs. And I go like, wow. And then she's super positive. And then we start walking. We check in the house. And then we hop in the car and we drive towards the beach, which is like an hour drive. And while we drive, I have this feeling, which is like the feeling of wanting to have this person in my life. I tell her, like, which is very weird, it's a very intimate thing. Anyway, we went to the beach. We were swimming, and then at one point I just couldn't resist. I tried to give her a kiss, which was the most like goofy kiss that you could give, because there were waves, and I would just almost bump into her face trying to kiss her. And then we kissed, and then we ended up, and there we are, and we're still together.
And you still have a broken nose.
And I told her about this podcast and about the story, And then she started about, you really have to tell, what I told you. And I was like, what did you tell me? Come on, I told you several times. I said, like, what did you tell several times? I told you. I thought, the worst case scenario is a bad shag.
That's lovely.
Like, come on.
Well, there you go. I mean, that is a real glass half full kind of attitude.
Yeah. The time I met her on the beach, she didn't want to come for lunch. So while I was talking to her, my friends walked by, and then when she went to her car, my friends were parked right in front of her car. So they told her again about the lunch, so she felt like forced to go to lunch.
I'm not going to lie, that the first part of it, from Chiara's point of view, it's a little bit of a different kind of story. You're surfing alone, some guy approaches like, hi, you're a beginner, not like me.
No, to be fair, she approached me.
And then you're like, come to lunch, we've blocked your car. And lived happily ever after.
Well, it's still Italy,
Well, Nico, that was really lovely. I can't get the imagery of the goofy kiss out of my head. Like, I just love the idea of a guy being too shy to really go in for a kiss. So he's like, I've got to surf. I've got to be surfing and just like do a flyby kiss on the surfboard. My question is, have you ever dated a fellow surfer before?
No. Actually, no, I haven't, and I'm so happy because she is just like me, water-wise. It's like we've done 2 surf trips together, and we were in Portugal in the last one, and she said like, oh yeah, we have to visit Lisbon, but if there's waves, we have to go surfing. I'm like, yes.
It's very hard to get on the same wavelength.
Oh, very nice. I think he redeemed the gold glove fingers there, guys.
Yeah,
that was very good. Very good guy. Chris.
My question is, I suppose, during the relationship, has her surfing improved a lot?
No, I tried giving some piece of advice, and she
No, never what you won't lie.
No.
But she's very stubborn, and she's very determined, and she's very fit as well, so it's still enjoyable.
Elle, do you have a question?
And how long have you two been together?
It'll be 1 year in July.
Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice.
I like the fact that you said, I want this girl in my life. I know that feeling when you're lying there going, she may not even be in the room, but you're thinking about her and you go, actually, I can't see my life moving on without her part of it.
That's beautiful.
It's so nice to see. It's disgustingly wonderful. Like, it's so, honestly, so nice. It's so nice to see.
Elle, I have a question. Having heard these 2 stories, is there any way in which your faith in romance and men is restored?
Oh, I know this might come across like I'm a hater. I'm a big lover. I'm a lover girl. I'm like 100%. I love love. I love romance.
That's why you didn't bail. Bail. She's a hopeless romantic.
Be the one.
Yeah. I can fix him.
Oh my gosh.
We may have come to the end of the show. Yes, excellent. Very good. Thomasin, have you anything to add before we wrap up?
I think the moral of the story today is that time does not exist, I think, like we learnt with Guy's story and Nico's, when you know. It doesn't matter how much time's gone by. With Elle, if someone's 20 minutes late to a date, don't go on that date.
Fair enough.
Our guests, if they have anything to plug, Guy, do you have anything?
I've got a show which is currently touring the UK called The Shark is Broken, and I'm going out to New York to direct it for the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Oh, wow.
It's all about Jaws.
Holy
Yes, I've heard.
I love that show. Elle, any last thoughts or anything to plug?
I run my own business. If you like wet wipes that are good for the environment, I suggest you go to twipes.com. They're fully flushable, biodegradable, gone in 3 hours. Fantastic. I'm a science nerd who loves the environment. I fell into it. And 10 years later, here I am.
I think it's fantastic.
And Nico, any shows or businesses or thoughts or anything?
My business is not very good for the environment because the movies just like wasting so much stuff. So, sorry.
Fair enough.
Well, on that happy note, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do give us a review and a follow. It really does make the difference to a small pod like us. So if you give us 5 stars, I will hug you with some gold glove fingers. If you give us 1 star, I'll take you on a date where peeing in the bush is the best part of it. Chris, anything else?
Oh, no, just keep an eye out for our live shows, Telling Tinder Tales, at various festivals, Derby, Shrewsbury, Buxton and Edinburgh. Thank you all for being wonderful guests and telling great stories. And goodbye from me. Would everyone like to say goodbye?
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
goodbye.
And thank you very much. See you again. Telling Tinder Tales is hosted and produced by me, Chris O'Neill, and Thomasin Lockwood. Produced and edited by Lucy Regan, with music by Quincas Moreira. It's a Jesters Comedy Dublin production and is no way affiliated with or endorsed by Tinder. If you have a story to tell, please get in touch. Details are in the show notes. And if you like us, instead of swiping right, follow us on Instagram and or TikTok at Telling Tinder Tales.